Okay, good evening, everybody. I see a good amount of participants have joined us, so thank you all for joining us. My name is Monica Saleh. I will be moderating today's webinar. I am a medical science liaison with Sanofi Genzyme and a consultant with the Accreditation Council for Medical Affairs, or ACMA. Welcome to today's webinar hosted by Ray CRO and ACMA. And today we're here to learn about the medical affairs team in the MENA region. We are dealing with today's pharmaceutical industry challenges. So I wanted to share quickly the objectives for today. Sorry, let me just get the objectives for today. My apologies. Omar, if it's okay, if you can just share your screen for now. And so as Omar is bringing his screen real quickly, I'd like to introduce you to the panel for today's webinar. We can go around and say hi to everybody and have them say something quickly about themselves. But if you guys could just wave as I introduce you, that would be wonderful. So everybody could see who you are. So first we have Omar Abu Talib. He is the medical director with Ray CRO, and he is here on behalf of Dr. Mosaad Morsi, Chairman and CEO of Ray CRO. Unfortunately, Dr. Mosaad couldn't be with us today, so Omar is here on his behalf. We also have Dr. Adham Ilbesha. He is a medical associate at Saja Pharmaceuticals, and we also have Dr. Ahmed Itani. And he is the regional medical manager at in the neuroscience space at Newbridge Pharmaceuticals. So hi everybody, thanks to the panelists for joining today. Now I'd like to give a moment to Omar to quickly give a quick introduction about Ray CRO.
Okay, hello everybody. This is Omar Abu Talib. I'm the medical director at Ray CRO, and actually on behalf of Dr. Mosaad Morsi, our CEO, I'll give you a short brief about Ray is supporting the medical affairs function, the different medical services with the pharma companies and the medical societies. Actually, our Dr. Mosaad is apologizing from attending the webinar today because his father-in-law has passed away just today, and that's why he was not able to join us for the meeting today. So actually, Dr. Mosaad is for a long time ago. He was the medical director at Pfizer for a long period, around 13 years. And after Pfizer, he joined Sanofi as a medical director. And with his work in the pharma companies and the pharmaceutical field, he realized that there is a need for outsourcing of the different medical functions in terms of clinical operation, in terms of medical affairs, in terms of regulatory affairs, pharmacovigilance, and the different medical functions. So that's why he started the creation and the foundation of Ray by the year 2010, where the Ray has been established by the year 2010 in Cairo. Our headquarters is currently available in Cairo. And we opened the other offices, and we launched our the different offices in the Middle East region, especially in the Gulf countries. In Dubai, we have started and launched our office in Dubai. Besides that, we acquired the CalMed CRO in KSA, and Ray currently our office will be launched soon in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. So we are existing in the different countries in the Middle East region, and I'll come now showing how we are covering the different functions in the different countries. Our main vision is to become the first and the highest quality first choice pharmaceutical consulting services organization in the Middle East region and Africa, and effectively and timely deliver the quality service and the quality of work with the different pharmaceutical companies and supporting the different pharmaceutical companies in the medical field. Our mission is to reach the excellence in supporting the pharmaceutical, biotechnology, and the medical device industries and academia in their endeavor towards developing products for the benefits of the mankind. So Ray is currently covering the whole Middle East region, especially the Gulf countries, the Levant countries, and the North Africa, and even covering the whole Africa countries. So our main office, our headquarters is based in Cairo, in Egypt, and we are covering the North Africa and the Africa region with our office in and our team as well in Tunisia, is covering the North Africa. And we are having us covering the Gulf countries, and soon we'll launch our office covering the whole region by through our teams. Some of the countries are covered through our partners, like in Iraq and in Libya. So we are having a lot of the different departments in Ray. We are having our medical, our clinical operation, was having a very talented and very well qualified clinical operation team covering the whole region, as I mentioned, in the Gulf countries and the Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, the whole Middle East and the Africa region. We are having our medical affairs team with very well qualified and well formed team. With medical writers and with biostatistician and the different medical affairs functions. We are having our regulatory affairs managers and our regulatory affairs team with covering and supporting the regulatory affairs in the different countries with the different pharma companies, or even with the submission, helping them in submission for the regulatory authority approvals. We are having our pharmacovigilance and data management team. The deputy general manager is controlling and managing the different functions like pharmacovigilance, the data management team, and the IT team, with having as well other quality assurance team. So for Ray team, we are having a very well organized organogram, having the different functions with the different departments and different activities. So our services, which are, this is my last slide, our services, we can support the different pharmaceutical companies and the different scientific field with the different services, like the clinical operation, like the clinical data management, pharmacovigilance. We could support also with a patient support program. We are having a huge and big qualified patient support program team. And training with workshop, we are having our curriculum and the training curriculum, and definitely with our partnership with Ray, with the ACMA, we will definitely support with the more and more qualified clinical trainings, our medical trainings, or having our medical affairs team supporting the different pharma companies and with the different functions and with different services. Regulatory affairs, biostatisticians, and we are having all the different teams that could support in the different functions. Now I will leave the floor for Monica for continuing the program.
Thank you for that wonderful overview, Omar. And actually joining right now is Dr. William Solomon, the CEO of the ACMA. He's still connecting to his audio, so we'll give him a minute to connect here while I share my screen and show you all the objectives for today. So again, welcome. I see that more attendees have joined, so welcome all. So here is the slide for the webinar for today. So these are some of the topics we will discuss with our panelists. But I believe Dr. William Solomon connected to his to the computers, to the audio. So I'll give a chance to Dr. William to introduce himself, as well as present or introduce quickly the Accreditation Council of Medical Affairs.
Thanks, Monica. Hi, everyone. Welcome again to the webinar this afternoon or this evening if you're in the Middle East. It's a real pleasure to have everyone. A little bit about the ACMA, and then I'll talk a little bit about the Ray CRO ACMA partnership and why I think it's so important for the medical affairs, medical science liaison professionals, really in the pharmaceutical industry as a whole in the Middle Eastern region. So if you don't know the ACMA, we are the only accredited organization in the world for medical affairs and medical science liaison professionals. And what we're most known for is the fact that we have the first and only accredited board certification program for medical affairs and MSL professionals. And you might have seen many people in many parts of the Middle East region that have the designation BCMAS, which is Board Certified Medical Affairs Specialist. And that really signifies excellence in medical affairs and for the MSL professionals. And you know, when you become a board certified medical affairs professional, it really tells the world that you've achieved the highest standard of excellence in the profession and in the pharmaceutical industry. We're always very selective with the partners that we choose around the world. And when it came to the Middle East, we really wanted to be very careful about who was going to represent the ACMA and its mission in the MENA region, the Middle East North Africa region. And so we believe that Ray CRO represents the highest standards when it comes to CRO, contract research organizations or clinical research organization work in the Middle Eastern region. We think they're really top standard and top-notch quality in terms of the work they've delivered, and many of their clients have attested to that. And so we felt that given their experience in the region, in the Middle East, as well as their understanding of the region and some of the needs in the region from a professional development perspective and some of the industry needs as a whole, that they would really be the perfect partners for the ACMA. And what's important to know is that through the ACMA CRO, Ray CRO partnership, it's the only way actually to provide accredited professional development training for your medical affairs team. So if you're on the call today and you're leading a medical affairs or MSL team and you're looking to provide accredited training, you can do that through the ACMA Ray CRO partnership. If you are someone who is in the industry and wants to enroll yourself, you can do the same thing as well, where you can actually enroll and become board certified in medical affairs. And if you are someone who is a physician, a pharmacist, or a PhD, and you want to break into the industry and build that repertoire in terms of a career in the pharma industry, BCMAS is a great way to do it. And really, this is actually the end of an amazing week. And I would say a historic week for the pharmaceutical industry as it relates to medical affairs and MSLs. If you don't know, this week, I had the honor and a privilege of being able to present to the United States Congress Health Subcommittee. And we were led by and opened up by Congressman Brett Guthrie, who's from the great state of Kentucky, who talked a lot about the ACMA professional standards and why it was important for patient care and the healthcare ecosystem as a whole. So this is the first time ever in the history of the pharmaceutical industry in 250 years in the modern industry that anyone's ever talked about medical affairs and medical liaisons to the United States Congress and testified before Congress. So that's something that I'm proud of. I think it speaks to the fact that we really are experts in this area and that we really are on the right track in achieving this mission. So if you're in the industry, I would say to you that, you know, I'm happy that you're here with us today. We're really excited about the content that's going to be talked about today. And if you have any questions in general about what we do at ACMA, what Ray CRO does, about the partnership, about the BCMAS program, feel free to direct those questions over to Elio Evangelista, who's our Director of Marketing at the ACMA. And I know that Omar is also on the call as well. And you can also direct any questions to him regarding the Ray CRO. So I'll stop there, Monica. I know that was a mouthful. See if anyone has any questions.
That was great. Thank you so much, Dr. William. And before we get started today, I just wanted to let the participants know that if you have any questions throughout the presentation today, please submit the question in the Q&A function on the bottom of your screen, and we will get to some of those at the end of the presentation today. But without further ado, let's get started. Let's talk a little bit more about medical affairs and its evolution in the MENA region. So as some of you might be aware, medical has shifted from a support function to a lead function, and now medical marketing actually leads the business. So I'd like to ask our panelists, from your experience, how have you seen the medical affairs function grow in the Middle East, North Africa region? And Adham, I will have you start with that question.
Thank you, Monica. Also, I would like to thank all the panelists and Ray CRO and ACMA for giving me this opportunity. Actually, yes, as you mentioned, the medical affairs function have been totally transformed during the last years from supporting other functions in pharmaceutical industry to leading these function. And generally, this was because the new products that are introduced to the market are characterized by complex mechanism of action and complex data to be disseminated to the key opinion leaders and healthcare professionals. So there is a need to have scientific persons specialized in detailing these complex data to healthcare professionals. From my experience, actually, I am working for Saja. Once I started working in the medical affairs career, my assigned product were primary care product, and they are well-established product. The contribution of medical team in these product actually was very minimum. And as you said, we are supporting other functions in the company. But by time after we acquired a rare disease product and specialty product and new products with complex mechanism of action, actually here the medical affairs value have become more prominent. We started to lead the function, to lead the product launch by detailing complex data to our key opinion leaders and key stakeholders, conducting advisory reports to discover unmet medical needs and the best way to launch our products. We started to cooperate with pharmacovigilance for data dissemination, risk management plans, also conducting patient registry. Also, the need for conducting something like phase 4 clinical trials have been raised during the last period to give more data about the product that are already marketed, and here where medical affairs actually contribute. Finally, all these data allows the medical affairs team to contribute in formulation of a brand, medically valid brand strategy, medically educational activities, and supporting in also speaker communication. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Adham. Dr. Ahmed, would you like to add your experience as well in the growth of medical affairs?
Yes, good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Ray and ACMA for inviting me to be part of this webinar. And thanks, Monica, for raising this topic. Actually, it's hardly surprising that significant changes has occurred in the MENA region in which the pharmaceutical industry operates, especially given the remarkable economic environment and the continued acceleration of technological change. So at least 3 new stronger forces emerged and greatly altered the healthcare landscape. First of all, the definition of value is much broader now and expands as the types of healthcare stakeholders who demand a demonstration of value increased. At the same time, there is an increased focus on evidence and higher hurdles of proving product value. Interactions between the pharmaceutical companies and various medical stakeholders continue to evolve with the emergence of new decision makers and with greater public analysis of these relationships. The proliferation of data and demands for transparency is accelerating, and the number and the types of users of the medical data and the information continue to expand rapidly. So we as medical affairs functions stand to be one of the most strategically important and valued functions in the pharma companies. And we act as the link between cutting-edge medical, scientific, and patient-centered insights, which drive the strategy and innovation throughout the entire product lifecycle. Few aspirations I can say would enable the medical affairs function to create significantly greater value for the companies, for the industry, and the society. as we enhance the patient access to having the best optimal medical treatment by clearly demonstrating the value to our practitioners and the payers throughout the life cycle of each product. And we embrace the patient-centric healthcare by engaging and partnering with a broader range of healthcare stakeholders to more fully understand the different needs of patients and to be able to provide tangible value to patients. So what we do is that we facilitate the coordination and the integration of different medical data and types of knowledge in the company and achieve external recognition for providing credible and unbiased medical information. So with time, the medical affairs team is growing in comparison with the commercial team. And I will end with what you have started, as the medical has shifted from being a support function, and today it's moving to be a lead function with other departments like the marketing department. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmed. And it's wonderful to see that there's so much growth in the medical field in the MENA region. But let's talk about the difference between small and large medical affairs teams. So with that being said, Adham, in your opinion, what knowledge is needed to perform the different roles in the medical affairs teams?
Okay, thank you, Monica. Actually, in order to know the knowledge, and I can take from your slide, you can see that there is a different layers in the medical affairs function, starting from a field-based MSLs to regional managers and medical advisor. And actually, this structure is for the large medical teams. However, in the MENA region, not all pharmaceutical company has these large medical affairs team. We have some pharma companies with a small medical affairs team and some pharma company with large medical affairs team. In the large, before taking the responsibilities, let's see some of different activities within the medical affairs function itself. First, the field-based MSLs. Second, medical information department, pharmacovigilance team, clinical development, and even training. All these lies below the medical affairs function. In large medical teams, you can see that there is these responsibilities are organized across different people or different functions in the medical affairs. For example, you can find that the MSL is responsible for the field-based activity, medical advisor responsible for managing advisory reports, training and promotion material review, and then medical information for responding to inquiry, pharmacovigilance for maintaining the safety of the product with patients. In small medical teams, actually, no, here come the need for the knowledge in all these function in order to perform his function in small medical team, because in a small medical team, MSL or medical associate is responsible for all these functions with the support with other departments inside the pharmaceutical company. So he needs to have a good knowledge, not just in interacting with KOL. No, he have to know how to respond to medical inquiry, how to deal with pharmacovigilance activity, how to perform some clinical development program, and even giving training to sales team. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Adham. And Dr. Ahmed, I'd like to ask about training. So how are medical affairs professionals getting trained to work in these different functionalities within medical affairs?
Yes, if we can talk internally within the pharmaceutical companies, medical leads, they acquired and developed the talents to build a strong, multifaceted medical affairs organization that encompasses the new set of competencies which are required to navigate the future healthcare landscape across the MENA region. So what medical leaders do, they act as inspiring role models, and they serve as guides through formal mentorships, and they are encouraged to provide the coaching that will get individuals, the teams, and the entire organization to perform at a higher level. So what we do is that we develop the skills and behaviors which are needed to enable the medical affairs to meet the challenges of a changing healthcare landscape. These might include, I can say, the strategic thinking, basic commercial skills, cross-functional collaboration, teamwork, and scientific leadership. So only when the mindsets will shift from a technical focus to people skills, here where truly capable leaders will emerge. So we usually focus on the capability building, especially at the local country level, which may require a huge effort to ensure the availability of the right talent pool. So the scope of capabilities required within the medical continues to increase. We have to make sure at the level of technical skills, the medical team have the compliance understanding, the scientific expertise, and the technical expertise. And now, after the pandemic, since we are going a lot virtually, so they should have the digital and the analytical skills. And at the level of having adaptive leadership, they should be understandable for the key opinion leaders engagement and the learning agility. And of course, what's important at the end is the business knowledge. So they should be aware of the strategic vision, and they should have the business acumen. If here I want to mention the role of the board certification of the medical affairs specialist. Back in 2018, I was doing my research, and I was looking for any course or certificate which will upgrade my skills in the medical affairs. I have an experience with medical affairs of around 9 years, and I needed any source of any certificate which can upgrade my skills. And here came the BCMAS, which is the only accredited certification program for the medical affairs team in the world. And this program, I believe it's one of the best paths that any one of the medical team can choose to elevate the existing career. And with this certification, I believe that I met the high standards of knowledge through intensive study, self-assessment, and evaluation to get the certificate at the end.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. And Dr. Adham, I know that you are also BCMAS certified, so would you like to add any of your experience to to add on to Ahmed's comments?
Yes, actually, as Ahmed said, BCMAS has sharpened my knowledge in different areas. And as I was talking from a while, in small medical teams, we need to have knowledge in different aspects: compliance, regulatory, pharmacovigilance, clinical development, even medical writing. And what makes me take BCMAS that it was covering all these topics. It is not just for the basic MSL rule, which is a field-based 70%, but actually it has covering all of the aspects needed to perform the medical affairs function. So actually, it have upgraded my knowledge, and actually after taking the BCMAS, I have implemented a lot of what I learned in my company.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Adham. And just a reminder, if any of the attendees today have any questions about the board certification medical affairs specialist or the BCMAS program, feel free to email Dr. Omar or Elio Evangelista. Both of their emails are in the chat box. So please take note of that and reach out to them for any questions. But with that being said, I'd like to shift to our last topic, which is product launch. And we know that product launch is a huge part of medical affairs. And medical affairs really does play a huge role in driving a lot of the activities behind it. So Adham and Ahmed, can you both discuss how medical affairs teams in the region are expected to support product launches? Adham, I'd like to have you start, please.
Okay, thank you, Monica, for your question. As you may know, the medical affairs team, actually, it is the only one who can start the activity in the pre-launch phase. Actually, when I mean by pre-launch phase, the medical affairs team start its function by the beginning of phase 3 clinical trials for the product, and maybe even earlier. During the pre-launch phase, Monica, you can shift the screen. The next slide, you can demonstrate the different types of activities. Actually, this is some sort of activities starting from pre-launch, but then launching the product, and even post-launch. Actually, these activities started from the pre-launch, like KOLs inside gathering, disease area awareness if needed. Some of the disease may need awareness to increase the diagnosing and management of these diseases. Speaker development, which is one of the most crucial parts during the pre-launch phase. So once the product is launched, the sales team have the ability to assign speakers to talk about the product and the disease area. Also, standard response document, which is as a function related to medical inquiry. It's like responding to the frequently asked questions that is expected to be questioned after the product launch. Medical affairs team prepares the answers for this to respond to this inquiry. Also, of course, advisory board with where we gather insights to support the product launch plan. All these activity actually continue while launching the product, but with different objectives. While launching the product, medical affairs team start to sales team training, start to prepare medical messages and disseminate scientific knowledge for healthcare professionals, also disseminating product clinical data, maybe preparing for some sort of speaker tour or speaker meetings, and of course the group meetings to increase the awareness of on the product and disease area. And finally, after launching the product, as I said, all these activities are still continued, but with different objective, reaching the post-launch phase where we may need to continue responding to medical inquiry, and we need to conduct some of phase 4 clinical trials with different objectives, supporting risk management plan, communication, and implementation. All these activities are related to medical affairs function with different responsibility. Maybe MSL will be responsible for all of that, or maybe it will be across all the medical affairs function. Thank you, Moon.
Wonderful. And Dr. Ahmed, would you like to add your experience about product life cycle as well?
Yes, I believe Adham gave a very nice summary regarding the activities. I would add that in order to understand and clearly demonstrate the value here, we as medical affairs strengthen the understanding of local medical practices and the patient needs and derive relevant insights from it. So we develop clear processes and systems to collect and synthesize the insights from different stakeholders and leverage these insights by collaborating with other functions in the company like research and development and other commercial functions. We relay these insights for early life cycle planning that arise from value discussions with commercial payers and hospital P&T committees. And we utilize the insights from the physician interactions to ensure that brand strategy maximizes the medical benefits for patients and physicians. We also collaborate to ensure that the cost effectiveness and the comparative efficacy data are available at the launch phase in order to enable the payers and the physicians to choose wisely among competing products. So medical team engages and partners with healthcare stakeholders to understand the patient's need, drive the engagement, and demonstrate the clear value to patients of medical and scientific engagement with a broader range of external stakeholders, including the key opinion leaders, the specialty physicians, and the emerging medical influencers. Like now, because of the pandemic, we can see that many doctors and key opinion leaders, they have their social media account, which is visible for anyone, and they always make sure to post stories and any post related to a certain disease area and the use of certain medications and the management of certain diseases. In addition, we always make sure that the health outcomes is the primary orientation of our scientific engagement, because this will strengthen the ability of the medical systems to effectively manage the healthcare of entire populations. So several steps are necessary for us to coordinate and integrate different medical data in a credible and unbiased fashion. So we drive the internal efficiency by integrating relevant medical insights into a central hub, which includes internal medical data, publications, and external knowledge from physicians and medical institutions. And we leverage the scientific and medical discussions to deepen the medical affairs focus on defining the clinical treatment pathways. Just in few words, I want to again re-summarize the major activities internally and externally. First of all, in terms of knowledge collection and management or gathering insights, externally we focus on advisory boards and online surveys or real surveys with the physicians. And internally, we make sure to collect the information from across functions and translate these insights into new opportunities. And at the level of knowledge dissemination, we do this through medical information, key opinion leaders presentations, local speaker events, face-to-face meeting with the MSLs, and of course the continuous medical education e-learning. And internally, we make sure to share the information and insights back and forth across functions, and we make sure also to have up-to-date processes and content training for the team. Thank you.
That was very comprehensive. Thank you, Dr. Ahmed and Dr. Adham, for your experience with this. It's definitely a lot of work on the medical side, but you know, it's very valuable as well what we are able to you know, to influence with the product launch. So thank you for that. And with here, I'm going to end this presentation. And thanks for those that asked questions. For the attendees that do have other questions, feel free to, again, use the Q&A functionality to submit your question. But we do have a few questions that we would like to address. So the first question is for Dr. William Solomon with ACMA. This question is from Ahmed El Gabeli. Is there a plan to provide partial or full scholarship or other form of exam cost reduction for BCMAS exams?
Hey, Monica. So the ACMA actually offers the only medical affairs scholarship. So we do have a medical affairs scholarship you can apply for. To be eligible for the scholarship, you need to have certain criteria that you meet. So if you go online to the website, medicalaffairsspecialist.org, and you go to the tab related to medical affairs scholarship, you can apply. And we've offered, you know, thousands of scholarships over the years, and we're always happy to do that. So there is that opportunity, that option.
Wonderful, thank you. And another question for you, Dr. Solomon, from an anonymous attendee. If you can just explain to us the what kind of accreditation BCMAS has.
Sure. So the ACMA is accredited by the International Association for Continuing Education and Training. National Board accrediting body established for many, many years, I think now 50, 60 years. And they actually accredit many well-known organizations like the Postgraduate Institute for Medicine, the American Heart Association, the American College of Cardiology, NASA, the Space Association that's in the United States. So very well-known organizations. It is a very rigorous accreditation. It's not easy to get. We're very happy that we have that. So the BCMAS program is also actually able to confer credits. So through the accreditation, depending on the country that you live in, you can actually use those credits towards maintenance, for example, of your licensure as a physician or a pharmacist if you're required to maintain certain continuing education credits.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. William. The next question I have is for both Dr. Adham and Ahmed. It's a two-part question. So the audience would like to know if you can just take us through your journey with BCMAS certification and how long did it take to study and complete the board exam? Dr. Ahmed, would you like to start?
Sure. So regarding my experience, actually, it took me 6 months to study for the BCMAS and to sit for the exam. Because I have a full-time job, so I only had the time to study in the weekends for a few hours and sometimes in the evening. My experience went well, actually. I believe that since I have experience with medical affairs, so some of the topics that were raised in the curriculum where I had an experience with it. So it wasn't that hard for me at that time. This is briefly regarding my experience.
Wonderful. Dr. Adham, would you like to add anything?
Actually, it was the same like Ahmed said. It took around 6 months. Actually, if someone have extra time to study, he can finish it in less time than that. But if I have an advice, each one starting to self-studying, he has to set a date and a schedule to finish his studying, so he can finish it on time and it will not be postponed to later time.
Thank you, Dr. Adham. And just to add to both Dr. Ahmed and Adham, the BCMAS is a 20 module certification, and it's self-paced. So you are able to register for the course, and then in your own time, you're able to go and take these modules in your free time. So it won't, you know, there's no time constraint. Well, the only time constraint really is it's that you have to complete it within 1 year. But thank you, Dr. Adham and Ahmed, for sharing how long it took you guys and your journey with both the BCMAS certification. Okay, so another question for really anyone to answer. Is the BCMAS certification beneficial to all medical affair members at any level, or does it require certain qualifications? And maybe, William, I'll give you that one to answer.
Sure. So it's actually interesting if you look at the data that we've gathered over the last few years on the board certified professionals. They range really in terms of seniority anywhere from an MSL all the way up to a chief medical officer. And I can tell you the feedback that we get all the time we get this feedback, is that I've worked in medical affairs for 15 years. As a vice president of medical affairs now in the industry, I can tell you that there was so much I realized I didn't know. I didn't realize that there was so much information I didn't really understand about these different functions, because you know what you know. And we hear the same thing from a lot of people with different levels of experience. So the idea behind board certification in medical affairs and why it's medical affairs is because, remember, like was talked about earlier today, when you look at the organizational structure for a medical affairs division, the MSLs as one function are part of that. We're a unit. Right? We're a family. We don't want to separate MSL from medical affairs. MSLs is a part of the medical affairs family. And so when you get board certified, you really want to be within that entire scope, having a very good, strong level of broad skills and knowledge. And that's why it was designed this way. And by the way, that's also why the accrediting board approved it. Because they look at medical affairs as a job function. It's a job function, you understand? And they understood that you could be a medical liaison today, you could be a medical director tomorrow, you could be in medical information or drug safety a few years later. So you're gonna have different roles. And that's really the idea, is that this establishes that uniform standard that ensures that everybody around the world, regardless of what you do in medical, we're all singing from the same hymn sheet.
That was a wonderful answer, Dr. William. Thank you for that. Dr. Omar, and after that, I'll have also Dr. Ahmed and Adham share their experience. But a question came about how some pharmaceutical companies are only allowing physicians to join medical affair functions such as MSLs or medical advisors. This person that's asking is a pharmacist and wants to know how can she overcome or he overcome this challenge to pursue the career with medical affairs.
Okay, thank you for this question. Yes, I agree with you for some time, but it's not. This is not the truth, because actually, this was the case. Yes, it's around 6 or 7 years back, but currently nowadays, most of the people or most of the employees in the medical affairs function in the different pharma companies are pharmacists and even some of them may be dentists even. So not all the heads or not all the medical managers and the medical affairs departments in the pharma companies nowadays, they are not all physicians. Currently, there are a lot of pharmacists, there are a lot of dentists working in the medical department with the different levels, either MSLs or either medical managers, medical advisors, and even heads. Some of the medical directors currently, they are a pharmacist. So it might be this might be the case in previously or in the past, around 6 or 7 years back. But currently nowadays, most of the employee in the pharmaceutical companies are pharmacists in the medical department. So if anybody would like to add something, Ahmed or Adam, are most welcome.
I
Yes.
totally agree with you, Dr. Omar. Back in like few years back, the medical affairs team, in order to join this team, you should have either a PhD or a MD or PharmD. But this is changing in the region. As long as you have an experience in the pharmaceutical industry and experience with the KOL engagement, with some trainings internally and some assignments, you would be able to join the medical affairs team. And again, here I would emphasize the role of the BCMAS, as you will have 20 modules digging deep in the medical function. So this would help.
Absolutely agree, Dr. Ahmed. And yeah, I agree that BCMAS will be a great way to have you stand out amongst other candidates that are applying within medical affairs, just to show that you have that standard, knowledge about the medical affair region, even if you don't have the experience. And with that being said too, Dr. Ahmed and Dr. Adham are both pharmacists by training, is that correct?
Yes.
And you don't necessarily have to be a physician, like Dr. Omar had mentioned that it was something of the past. But Dr. Adham, is there anything that you'd like to add as well?
Yes, actually, a part of the question is how to be differentiated from physicians applying for the same position. And as maybe also Ahmed said, as we said, medical affairs function is for disseminating complex data. And we are not selling the product. And later in the previously, there was a fear that the medical sales team may use the medical affairs function to sell the product, which is against the function. And here where the physicians are may fit more than the medical sales team. Currently, if a sales rep or a medical sales representative is applying for an MSL job, and a physician is applying for an MSL job, actually the only added value for the physician is his ability to acquire complex information and knowledge about clinical practice. And here comes the BCMAS modules, where the pharmacist here can have a more value than the physician by knowing all the aspects of the function, so he can perform well and more effective than the physician.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Adham. Dr. William, a question about BCMAS. Is there a certain date for joining such program, and what about team registration?
Good questions. The great thing about BCMAS is that it's self-paced, so it's a rolling admission. You can enroll anytime. And I don't know if this was talked about, but also what's nice about BCMAS is that the platform is called, it has a geo-redirect technology. And what that means is that the platform can identify your location in the world, and it can actually give you content related to that part of the world. So for example, if you're in the Middle East and you're applying for a BCMAS program, you can get a Middle Eastern version of it, because as you guys know, the regulatory and compliance rules, regulations differ for different regions of the world. So it's on a rolling basis. You can enroll any time. It's global, but it's also local to your area. There are circumstances where people say, you know, I'm based in Egypt, but I'm going to move to Canada. Can I do the Canadian one? And we can do that for you. And one thing I was going to say to Ahmed and Adham's point that I think is really important is that when you think about the body of knowledge we have today in the world for science, think about, for example, COVID-19, and think about in the last 12 months how much information we had initially in the beginning of the 12 months about COVID-19 and how much we developed, and think about the global partnerships that took place to get the vaccine out. One of the things that I was talking about just recently when I was on Al Jazeera was about the Johnson & Johnson partnership, right, with Merck in terms of being able to distribute the vaccine. In this case, J&J has the vaccine, Merck doesn't, but Merck has experience doing vaccine distribution. And the reason why I bring this up is that there was an interesting paper that came out a few years ago that looked at global scientific output. And this is an interesting fact you can use when you're at dinner with people or you're, you know, interested in sounding smart. You can say global scientific output, it doubles every 9 years. So think about that. Every 9 years, the amount of information we have in the scientific world, it doubles. So it's almost an exponential kind of curve. And the reason why I bring that up is because it's almost impossible to keep up with that body of knowledge and how quickly things are changing, and from a clinical scientific perspective, but even from an industry perspective. And that was one of the things that Congressman Brett Guthrie brought up during the congressional briefing this week, was that the reason why we have credentials is to make sure that everybody meets the standard. Imagine if you had a physician who, after they graduated medical school, they didn't do any continuing education. That would be something that would be kind of scary, right? Because you want to make sure the physician is continuing to progress in their knowledge. And you could argue that a medical affairs professional has a huge impact on clinical trial research around the world. How many medical directors or study directors for trials? I'm sure with Ray CRO, they work with many pharmaceutical companies where they're working with medical affairs, working with clinical development, and those people are managing those studies, analyzing that data, looking at, you know, the drug safety elements, even looking at the pharmacoeconomic elements. So we need to really, for the sake of our patients, make sure that we meet a standard. Will BCMAS give you an advantage? We have some data on it, actually, Monica, if you'll allow me to share.
Absolutely.
So we have data, it's pretty amazing. 90% of people who actually complete the BCMAS program within 3 months, they're able to land a role in pharma. I mean, that's phenomenal. We hear all the time from people that as soon as they complete their BCMAS and they let the recruiters know, that they start to contact them immediately. So it gives you definitely a badge of credibility, but more than just landing a role, what I would say to everybody on the phone who is interested in working in the pharmaceutical industry, you really got to do it for the patients. You really got to do it because you want to make an impact on patient lives. Today I put out a post on LinkedIn, which every time I think about it, it makes me emotional. It was about a young woman who was in her late teens, and we had went to the FDA. I worked in rare disease, and she was saying how because she took our drug, she was able to take a shower, to lift her hands and wash her head, because it was her arms were tired, right? She had asthenia from the disease, but this drug gave her the strength to be able to raise her hands and wash her hair with a shampoo to keep them up long enough so she could take a shower. And when you hear stories like that, it tells you, wow, you know what? We really can make a difference in people's lives. And that is particular example with that rare disease, that was all driven by medical affairs because we were trying to get a new indication. And for many people with that rare disease, they couldn't get access to the drug, especially outside of the United States. So we really can impact people's lives. And that's really why you want to work in medical affairs. That's really why you want to be a medical liaison, because you can transform lives. And I have one more story, Monica, is a mom who had a son that had Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And she said to me, as a mom, I want to know that the doctors that I go speak to, they have the most relevant information, the most current data, And of course, I want to know that the pharmaceutical companies are being held to the highest level and highest standards of accountability. And listening to her as a mother, it makes you think about it differently, because sometimes when we work, I worked in industry for 20 years, you don't think about that sometimes, but these are all important things to think about.
Those are very touching stories, Dr. William. Thank you for sharing. And yes, I agree. I think in the medical role, you have an impact on a patient population, and that's absolutely very rewarding. So thank you for sharing those stories. Okay, we have time for one question, and Adham and Ahmed, I'll pass this question to you both. What characteristics, or what are the requirements or characteristics in this field? I'm assuming the medical affairs field. Are there training courses I can take while I'm still a student, or do I have to wait until I graduate? And I think we answered a little bit of that already, but please feel free to add any more information you'd like to add.
Okay, Monica. Actually, training for medical affairs, as we mentioned, in most pharmaceutical companies, the medical affairs or MSL are promoted from the sales team. At least here in the Middle East, this is how it goes. Actually, it's 90% of people. So I think it's best to be first as a medical representative, having knowledge and courses to be a good medical representative. And while once he land his position as a medical rep, he can directly go for the BCMAS, so where he can strengthen his knowledge and skills in medical affairs function, and he can have the knowledge and skills from his medical representative job to land his MSL job. Maybe in other regions, some people can land MSL job directly without passing through medical representative pathway. But in the Middle East, I think 90% of MSL job are for pharmacists at least are promotion from medical representative.
Thank you, Dr. Adham. And Dr. Ahmed, do you have anything else to add?
I just want to add that, as I mentioned earlier, that here comes the role of the medical leads or the medical directors, where they can train internally the employees for the medical function. In addition, some companies are allowing for a position of medical interns, where someone can come to the company and have some training for a few months without getting paid, or he or she can get a half salary or something. So these are two of the ways that they can get trained inside the company for the medical affairs function.
Wonderful.
And that's a point, because right now we're in discussions with a company who's interested in doing that. It's setting up an internship program for the Middle East. So if anyone's interested in talking to us about that, we'd love to talk to you about that. But it's a great way to source talent and to kind of bring them through the process. We do that in the US, and it's been very successful, I think in particular for pharmacists, but for physicians, at least this was the focus, to kind of help them in onboarding and obviously going through the certification and all that. So
wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. William and Dr. Ahmed and Adham. And this concludes our webinar for today. I want to thank all the attendees and participants and the questions that you all brought in. Thank you, Omar. Thank you, Dr. William, Dr. Ahmed, and Dr. Adham. I appreciate all the insight you all provided today. Have a good evening, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
bye.
Bye.